There are some of us, few of us, who were born different. Not better, not broken, just different. From the beginning, we felt the hum of the world beneath its noise. We sensed things others ignored, picked up vibrations that had no name, saw sadness hiding behind smiles, rage behind polite tones, despair in the silence. We were the children who asked too many questions, who stared too long, who cried when the room didn't feel right, not because of what was said, but because of what was not. We grew into adults who carry invisible weights, not from failure or weakness, but from awareness, an unbearable awareness of every fracture, every tension, every unspoken truth lurking beneath the surface of this overly bright, artificially calm world. They call us too sensitive. They call us too intense, too much. But they don't understand what it costs to live this way, to feel everything. It's not a switch you can turn off. It's not a choice. It's not a flaw. It's a way of being in the world that doesn't fit into the script they handed us. While most people walk through life wearing armor made of numbness, we walk around with open wounds, not because we want to, but because our soul refuses to shut its eyes. And that's the difference. We see, we feel, we remember, not just events, but the emotional imprints they leave behind. We notice the pauses in conversation that signal what someone isn't saying. We feel the sorrow beneath the laughter. We detect the fractures in people's spirits, the scars they've forgotten to hide. We're not just emotional, we're tuned in. Our nervous systems act like antennas, absorbing every signal, every frequency, from words to body language, from colors to chaos. We feel the room before we speak in it. We feel the pain before it's ever spoken aloud. And that is exhausting in a way most can't comprehend. We don't tire from doing too much. We tire from being too present, from constantly digesting emotional noise the world has long stopped hearing, from carrying the ache of other people's suffering as if it were written into our own DNA. We're expected to function like everyone else. Show up, smile, nod, shake hands, make small talk. But every interaction is a storm. Every errand is a performance. Every social setting is an environment laced with overstimulation and pretense. We aren't designed for shallow living. We're wired for depth, for meaning, for truth. And so the world becomes a hostile place, not because it's attacking us directly, but because it demands a rhythm we were never meant to dance to. And when we try, when we fake the lightness, it fractures us further. The dissonance between what we feel and what the world expects us to fake becomes unbearable. And we begin to question ourselves, why am I like this? Why can't I be easier? Why does everything hurt? But it's not a malfunction. It's your depth. And the deeper you are, the harder it is to swim in the shallows of society. Carl Jung called this the path of individuation, becoming who you truly are by diving beneath the mask. And this path is not for the faint of heart. It demands pain. It demands solitude. It demands facing the parts of yourself the world never had time to meet. Most people are sleepwalking. They live on autopilot. They want easy answers, instant fixes, bite-sized truths. But you are awake. You feel every inch of your existence. And that makes you dangerous. Because someone who feels too much sees too much. And society doesn't want that. It doesn't want mirrors. It wants conformity. It wants masks. It wants simple, palatable, and obedient souls who follow the program. But you're You're not programmable. You're not scalable. You're not marketable in the way they want, because you bring the full force of presence into a room, and that presence makes people uncomfortable. Why? Because it forces them to feel, to question, to remember. And so, you begin to hide. You start to dilute yourself. You wear the mask to avoid rejection. You smile when you're dying inside. You soften your voice, mute your feelings, dumb yourself down, just to be tolerable, just to be liked, just to be allowed to exist. But each time you do that, you betray yourself. Each time you silence your truth to preserve harmony, you create disharmony within. Each time you edit your soul for comfort, you carve away your essence. And that's why you're tired. Not because life is hard, but because living falsely is soul murder. The body carries what the mind cannot express. That tight chest, that fatigue that doesn't leave after 10 hours of sleep, that ache in your shoulders, the restlessness in your stomach, the fog in your brain. It's not laziness. It's emotional overload. It's your body screaming what your voice was never allowed to say. And still, the world tells you to relax, to lighten up, to not take things so seriously. But how can you take life lightly when you see its depth? You can't unfeel. You can't unsee. You can't calm down when the storm is inside of you. What you need is not more distraction, not more noise, not more pressure to adapt. What you need is permission. Permission to be, to feel, to hurt, to express, to exist fully without apology. You don't need to be healed. You need to be heard. You need to be seen. You need to be met, not with pity, but with presence. Martin Buber said that true existence is born in the space between I and thou. That's what you crave. Not followers, not approval, not applause. You crave realness. A conversation that pierces the surface. A connection that doesn't require you to play pretend. A silence that feels safe. A gaze that welcomes the truth of who you are. That is not a weakness. That is not neediness. That is humanity. And the fact that it's rare doesn't make you wrong. It makes you necessary. Because the world is drowning in superficiality. And souls like yours are lifeboats. So if you've been made to feel broken, let me tell you something. You are not broken. You are whole in a world that wants pieces. You are deep in a culture that rewards shallow. You're awake in a system that thrives on sedation. Yes, the journey is lonely. Yes, you will lose people. Yes, your intensity will scare them. But the ones who stay, the ones who recognize you, those are your tribe, your real family. They're out there, feeling too much, bleeding in silence, waiting for someone like you to speak first. So speak, even if your voice shakes, even if no one listens at first. Speak, because every time you do, you carve a path through the dark for someone else to follow. You're not here to fit in. You're here to break molds. You're here to remind the world of what it's forgotten. That feeling is not a flaw. It is a force. And if it hurts, let it hurt. Don't numb it. Don't run. Let it shape you. Because your pain is not pointless. It is the friction required to birth authenticity. It is the weight that forges warriors of truth. Carl Jung said, "He who looks outside dreams. He who looks inside awakens." And you are already awake. Stay that way. Even if it costs you comfort. Even if it costs you company. Even if it costs you everything that once felt familiar. Because in the end, the only thing more dangerous than feeling too much is never feeling enough. And that is the world's disease, not yours. You, with your open heart, with your bleeding soul, with your unbearable truth. You are not the problem. You are the answer. So walk through this world as you are, unfiltered, unapologetic, unbreakable, because what you feel too deeply is exactly what the world has forgotten how to see, and it's time to remind them. Before anything can be transformed, it must be seen clearly. Most people who carry emotional depth and heightened sensitivity live with an unspoken shame, a belief that something about them is wrong, too heavy, too intense for this world. This belief doesn't come from within. It is taught, implied, reinforced over and over through rejection, invalidation, and the silent but persistent message, you are too much. The first step in this process of reclaiming your power is simple, yet profound. Stop apologizing for who you are. This isn't just about words. It's about the posture you carry into life, the way you shrink yourself in rooms that cannot hold your truth, the way you soften your voice when speaking about things that matter, the way you look away, laugh it off, brush it aside when you're asked how you really feel. No, more of that. This lesson is about breaking the lifelong habit of spiritual self-betrayal and stepping into the unapologetic truth of your nature, because you cannot heal what you are still trying to hide. Key principles. 1. Your sensitivity is not a defect. The world has pathologized sensitivity, as if feeling deeply is something to be cured or managed. But sensitivity is awareness. Sensitivity is depth. Sensitivity is perception on a frequency most people are too dulled to receive. Your sensitivity is a mirror of your soul's integrity. It is your superpower. 2. Rejection has nothing to do with your value. When you were dismissed, mocked, or misunderstood for expressing your emotions, you internalized the idea that your truth was inconvenient. That was never true. Their discomfort does not reflect your worth. It reflects their limits. 3. Apologizing for who you are is learned behavior. You were not born apologizing for your emotions. You were taught to. Through the disapproval of parents, peers, partners, teachers, the lesson was loud and clear. You must tone it down to be loved. But that lesson was a lie, a dangerous one, and it must be unlearned. Practices for integration. First daily mirror declaration. Every morning, look into your own eyes and say, I will not apologize for the way I feel. My emotions are valid. My sensitivity is power. I honor it. I trust it. I embody it. Say it even if it feels forced. Say it especially when you don't believe it yet. Your nervous system needs to hear you stop betraying yourself. 2. Reclaim your story. Write a short narrative of the 3 earliest memories you have of being told you were too much. Then rewrite each one from the perspective of your empowered self. Example. Original memory. I cried at a funeral and was told to stop being dramatic. Rewritten. I was the only one brave enough to feel what everyone else suppressed. I honored the moment with truth. Do this until the shame begins to unravel and a new identity takes shape. 3. Create an apology jar. Every time you find yourself apologizing for something that isn't wrong, your feelings, your opinions, your presence, write it down on a small slip of paper. Put it in a jar. At the end of the week, read them all and ask yourself, would I expect someone I love to apologize for this? This ritual will reveal how often you betray your essence for comfort and begin to shift the habit at its root. Affirmations for deprogramming. Repeat these daily, aloud or in writing, preferably during transitional moments. Before sleep, Upon waking, after emotional interactions, I am not too much. I am exactly as deep as I need to be. My feelings are data. I trust them. I do not need to explain my sensitivity to those unwilling to understand. My depth is not a flaw. It is a compass. I release the need to shrink. I do not chase comfort. I honor truth. I am no longer available for self-erasure. Shadow work prompts. Spend 15 to 30 minutes reflecting or journaling on one of these each day this week. What parts of myself do I believe are too much for others? When did I first learn to hide how I feel? Whose approval am I still trying to earn by being smaller than I am? What would it look like to live without apology? If I showed up as my full self, what might I lose? And what might I gain? Closing reflection. You do not owe the world a version of yourself that makes others comfortable. You are not born to fit in. You are born to feel, to see, to pierce illusions with your presence. If the cost of acceptance is self-abandonment, then the price is too high. This lesson is not about arrogance. It's about alignment. It's about the sacred act of ceasing to seek approval from systems and people who never saw you clearly. This is where it begins. Not with fixing, not with changing, but with remembering. You were never too much. You were never the problem. You're not here to apologize. You are here to be. When you feel everything, you carry more than your fair share. Not because you want to, but because your body, your mind, your spirit were designed without filters. You absorb energy like a sponge in a flood. You walk into rooms and inherit the tension. You listen to someone's voice and feel the fracture behind the words. You leave conversations more exhausted than when you arrived. And for years, maybe decades, you've mistaken this exhaustion for weakness. No, it's not weakness. It's the cost of being awake in a world built for numbness. But here's the truth most people will never tell you. You cannot carry everything. Not and stay whole. Not and stay sane. Not and keep your soul intact. You must learn the most sacred skill someone with depth can master. Boundary. Boundaries are not walls. They are filters. They are the way you tell the world, this is sacred ground. Enter only with respect. Without boundaries, your emotional life becomes a public road, open to every passing storm. This lesson is about building a life that doesn't drain the very energy you need to stay alive. It's about preserving your inner fire without smothering it. Because a soul like yours doesn't burn out from lack of passion. It burns out from overexposure. Key principles. 1. Feeling everything doesn't mean you must carry everything. You are capable of deep empathy. That doesn't mean you're responsible for healing everyone's wounds. The world will hand you its pain and demand your silence in return. No, you are not a dumping ground. You are not a reservoir for other people's chaos. 2. Boundaries are not rejection. They are reverence. Saying no is not cruelty. It's clarity. It is a sacred act of self-respect. The people who truly value you will never demand that you self-destruct to keep them comfortable. 3. Overgiving is not generosity. It's self-abandonment. If you're constantly giving at the expense of your own well-being, it's not compassion. It's erasure. And eventually, you begin to resent the very people you once loved to help. Not because they asked too much, but because you gave too much, without asking yourself if it was sustainable. Practices for integration. 1. The energy audit. For 1 week, track your interactions. People, places, tasks. After each one, rate your energy level from 1 to 10. Ask, Did this drain me or feed me? Was I energized or depleted? Was this connection mutual, or was I bleeding into silence? At the end of the week, review the data. Patterns will emerge. So will decisions. 2. The sacred number. Practice saying no without justification. Not no because, just no, that doesn't work for me. Or, no, I'm not available for that. Then stop. Let the silence speak for itself. Let discomfort do its job. You are not here to manage how others feel about your boundaries. 3. Define your emotional safe zones. Ask yourself, where do I feel safe to feel? Who listens to me without judgment? What activities restore me instead of draining me? Then make these non-negotiable. Protect them. Guard them like you would guard oxygen in a fire. Affirmations for protection. Say these out loud, write them down, or repeat them before entering any emotionally demanding situation. I am not available for emotional theft. My energy is sacred. I do not owe it to everyone. I can care deeply and still choose myself. My worth is not measured by how much I endure. I do not betray myself for peace that isn't real. My presence is a gift, not an obligation. I protect my space to preserve my soul. Boundary work prompts. Use these prompts in your journal or meditation practice. Where in my life am I allowing others to overstep my emotional limits? What parts of me go silent in order to keep the peace? Who drains me, and why am I still allowing it? When I say yes to others, what part of myself am I saying no to? What would it look like to live without guilt over protecting my energy? The shift. You don't need to become cold. You need to become clear. You don't need to isolate. You need to discriminate between what gives life and what devours it. People will call you distant, uncaring, guarded. Let them. What they don't understand is that you've spent years burning for people who never brought you water. You've collapsed in rooms trying to hold up walls that were never yours to carry. Now, it's your turn to stop leaking, to stop bleeding out every time someone else can't hold their own pain, to stop apologizing for building gates around the sacred ground of your soul. You were never meant to be wide open to everything. That is not sensitivity. It's exposure. That is not compassion. It's martyrdom. The world has taught you that to love deeply is to suffer constantly. No. To love deeply is to honor your limits, to know where your presence begins and where your energy must end. If your soul is to remain alive, if your fire is to keep burning, then boundaries are not optional. They are vital. You cannot illuminate the world if you're burned out from trying to carry it. Protect your light, guard your depth, and never again trade your inner peace for outer approval. You've spent years silencing yourself, not because you lacked the words, but because the world taught you that your truth was too much. You were told to tone it down, to let it go, to not take it so seriously. So you swallowed your words. You edited your thoughts. You dimmed your voice until the silence started to sound like safety. But silence isn't safety. It's suffocation. And over time, that suppression becomes a prison. This lesson is about unlocking your voice, not just the one that speaks, but the one that reveals, the one that dares to speak unfiltered truth in a world addicted to comfort. Because your voice is not noise. It's not drama. It's medicine, but only if you stop choking it down. Key principles. 1. Your voice is an extension of your soul. When you silence your truth, you fragment your spirit. Every word you hold back to be liked, every truth you dilute to keep the peace, chips away at your sense of self. Your voice is not just how you speak, It's how you exist. 2. Self-expression is self-liberation. Expression isn't about being heard by others. It's about releasing what you carry. You speak, write, create, not for validation, but for survival. Because what isn't expressed festers. 3. Speaking your truth will cost you, but silence costs more. Yes, people may flinch. Yes, relationships may shift. But what you stand to gain is greater than what you fear to lose. When you speak as your true self, you stop living for acceptance and start living in alignment. Practices for integration. 1. The 7-Day Truth Challenge. For 1 week, commit to saying one honest thing each day that you normally wouldn't. It can be small. I'm actually not okay. That comment hurt me. I need space. Say it calmly, clearly, without apology. Then breathe through the discomfort. Let the truth land. Let it reshape the space around you. 2. Uncensored journaling. Create a journal that no one will ever read but you. Title it, "The Words I Was Never Allowed to Say." Each day, write as if no one is watching. No editing, no filtering, no explaining. Speak the unspeakable. Let the paper absorb what the world refused to hear. 3rd Voice activation ritual. At the start of each day, go somewhere private. Out loud, speak 5 sentences that feel real. Even if your voice shakes. Even if they're ugly. The goal isn't eloquence, it's release. Examples. I'm angry and I don't want to hide it. I'm afraid I'll never be understood. I want to stop pretending I'm okay. Let your body feel the vibration of truth as it leaves your mouth. Affirmations for voice reclamation. Speak these aloud each morning. Write them down at night. I do not silence myself to keep others comfortable. My truth is not optional. I release shame around my voice. I deserve to speak, to feel, to exist without restraint. My words are sacred. They will not be edited for approval. I am not too intense. I am honest. I will not die with my soul still unspoken. Shadow work prompts. Use these to uncover the hidden blocks to your expression. When did I first learn that my voice was dangerous? Who taught me to be quiet in order to be loved? What am I most afraid of saying out loud? And why? What would I sound like if I weren't afraid of rejection? What masks do I wear to survive? And what are they hiding? The shift. You were not born soft-spoken. You were made that way by a world that couldn't hold your magnitude. But the truth? Your voice is not a threat. It is a signal to others like you who are still buried in silence. When you speak your truth, you grant others permission to do the same. And no, not everyone will be ready. Not everyone will stay. Some will retreat. Some will mock. Some will turn cold. Let them. You're not here to be decoded by the masses. You're here to echo the unspeakable. Expression is not performance. It is presence. It is the courage to undress your soul in daylight. You've been trained to believe that your voice must always be pleasant, that your truth must be gentle, that your presence must never disturb the water. But still water is where things go to die. Still water is silence turned into a grave. You are not here to keep things quiet. You are here to bring the storm. The longer you wait to speak, the more your body carries what your soul was meant to release. It's time to return to your voice, to remember that it was never made to be buried under politeness and fear. Say it, all of it, even if no one claps, even if no one stays, because the sound of your truth is the first step in remembering who you are. You have spent a lifetime divided. One part of you that the world sees, polished, composed, pleasant, and another part that lives in hiding, raw, intuitive, honest, real. This fragmentation didn't happen overnight. It was gradual. It began with small concessions, a laugh when something wasn't funny, a nod when you wanted to scream, a silence when your soul was begging to speak. You became many versions of yourself to survive. The agreeable one, the quiet one, the strong one, the one who has it together. But somewhere along the way, you began to lose touch with the version that mattered most, the true one. And now, you wonder why you feel so hollow, so disconnected, so misaligned. It's because you are still living in pieces. And this lesson is about calling all of them home. This is about integration, about remembering what you buried, about reclaiming every part of yourself you silenced in order to belong. Because belonging that demands your fragmentation is not belonging. It's bondage. Key principles. 1. The world rewards masks, but masks kill the soul. You were taught to be agreeable, not authentic, to be likable, not real. But every time you contort your truth to maintain harmony, you lose connection with yourself. You begin to live as a curated version of who you think you're supposed to be. That is not a life. It's a performance. 2. Integration is the only path to wholeness. Healing isn't about becoming someone new. It's about retrieving the parts of yourself you abandoned. The wild part, the emotional part, the shadowy part. You don't need to fix yourself. You need to reunite with yourself. 3. Fragmentation creates suffering. Wholeness creates peace. When you live in pieces, your internal compass stops working. You say yes when you mean no. You feel joy but can't access it. You feel pain but don't know where it's coming from. Your life becomes misaligned, and your body carries the cost. Practices for integration. 1. The wholeness map. Draw 2 large circles. Label 1, what I show the world. Label the other, what I hide from the world. Fill each circle with words, traits, thoughts, memories, emotions. Be brutally honest. Now draw a 3rd circle, what I want to bring into the light. This is your bridge. This is where the healing begins. 2. Reclaim the silenced parts. Make a list of the things you've been told were too much, inappropriate, embarrassing, or unacceptable about yourself. Then one by one, write a love letter to each of them. Example. To my anger, thank you for trying to protect me when no one else would. To my sensitivity, you saw what others chose to ignore. You are not weakness. You are my radar. This process reclaims what you've been taught to disown. 3rd shadow. Integration. Ritual. Choose one unacceptable part of yourself to work with each week. Sit in a quiet place. Close your eyes. Imagine that part sitting across from you. Ask, what do you want to tell me? What are you afraid of? What do you need from me to feel safe again? Listen. Write it down. That is your reintroduction to yourself. Affirmations for wholeness. Speak them slowly. Let them land. I no longer abandon parts of myself for acceptance. I am not here to be palatable. I am here to be whole. I forgive myself for wearing the mask. Every part of me is worthy of love. What I used to hide, I now choose to honor. I do not shrink to survive anymore. Wholeness is my birthright. I claim it now. Shadow work prompts. Dig deep. Write without censorship. What parts of me have I disowned in order to be loved? Who told me I needed to be different to be acceptable? What emotions do I suppress the most, and why? What role have I been playing to avoid rejection? What would my life look like if I allowed myself to be all of me? The shift. Integration is not comfortable. It requires you to confront everything you've buried. The rage, the grief, the longing, the raw power of the self you left behind. But comfort is not the goal. Truth is. And truth will not live in silence. It will not rest in fragments. When you start to live from wholeness, you stop shape-shifting to earn love. You stop fearing rejection. You stop negotiating your value with people who can't see you. No. You rise. You show up full. You walk into rooms without armor. Not because it's safe, but because it's real. Closing reflection. You were never meant to live split in half. Half expressive, half repressed. Half visible, half hidden. Half human, half ghost. You are not here to play roles. You are here to live unmasked. Yes, the world may not know what to do with your wholeness. Yes, it will flinch at your fullness. But your job is not to be manageable. Your job is to be true. Integration means you stop asking, who do I need to be accepted? And start asking, who am I when I am no longer afraid to be seen? And that is when life begins. Not a life of convenience, but a life of congruence. Not a life of performing, but a life of belonging to yourself. Welcome home. By now you've begun to see it. Your sensitivity is not your weakness. Your emotional intensity is not your shame. Your complexity is not your curse. It's your weapon. It's your map. It's your gift. But only if you stop running from it. Only if you stop diluting it. Only if you stop apologizing for it. Because this world will not hand you space for your truth. You must carve it. With your words. With your boundaries. With your presence. And most of all, with your willingness to live fully awake in a world that rewards numbness. This final lesson is not about healing for the sake of comfort. It's about transcendence. It's about taking the raw, wild truth of who you are and wielding it with conscious intent. This is the moment where you stop surviving your sensitivity and start leading with it. Key principles. 1. Depth is a responsibility. You were given this level of perception for a reason. You see more. You feel more. You understand more. That means your responsibility is greater. Not to save others, not to carry their weight, but to embody what the rest of the world tries to escape. The full spectrum of being human. To walk through the fire, not because you enjoy the pain, but because you were born with the ability to return from it, changed, forged, and carrying wisdom others don't even know exists. 2. Emotional intensity is creative fuel. Pain that isn't expressed becomes poison. But when it is given form, through words, through art, through presence, it becomes power. What feels unbearable within you is often the seed of something transformational. Your job is not to escape it. Your job is to use it. 3. The world needs depth, even if it rejects it. Shallow systems collapse. Fake lives unravel. Surface-level connections rot from within. People are starving for something real, even if they don't know how to receive it. Your depth is not what separates you. It's what the world is waiting for, but only from someone strong enough to stand in it unapologetically. Practices for integration. 1. Choose your medium. Your intensity must go somewhere. Choose a sacred outlet, something creative, physical, expressive, or spiritual. If you write, write uncensored truth. If you speak, say what others fear to voice. If you move, let your body carry your soul into motion. If you build, make it reflect your inner world. Don't create for validation. Create to witness yourself. Create to alchemize pain into presence. 2. Build a life that can hold your soul. Stop forcing yourself into environments that diminish you. Your job, your relationships, your routines. Ask yourself daily, does this give me life or drain it? Is there room for my whole self here? And if the answer is no, then stop molding yourself to fit cages you were never meant to live in. Burn what needs to be burned. Walk away when the cost is your soul. 3. Mentor the parts of you that once felt powerless. You've been through things. You've survived yourself. Now, close your eyes and imagine the version of you who was still lost, still shrinking, still afraid, still apologizing for their existence. Now become what that version of you needed. Speak to them. Show them how far you've come. Then take their hand and bring them forward with you. Affirmations for embodied power. These are not soft declarations. They are commitments. I will no longer apologize for my depth. I lead with it. My pain has been transmuted into power. I walk in truth, even if it makes others uncomfortable. I will not abandon my soul to belong. I choose presence over approval. I do not suppress. I express, this world may never understand me, but it will feel me. I am not broken. I am becoming. Shadow work prompts. Transcendence requires courage. Start here. What part of my power have I been afraid to claim? Where have I been waiting for permission to be fully myself? What in me has survived every storm I've faced? What does it mean for me to live from my soul rather than my mask? How can I build a life that honors my full range, not just my performance? The shift. There's a moment in every transformation when the old life no longer fits. Not because it was always wrong, but because you've outgrown it. You're there now. You can't shrink back into numbness. You can't unsee what you've seen. You can't unread the language of energy and emotion. You can't unknow the truth of who you are. No. The only path now is forward. Not toward some fantasy of healing that erases your pain, but toward a reality where your pain becomes a resource, a compass, a guide, a flame. You are no longer here to be palatable. You are here to impact. And to do that, you must step into the totality of who you are. All of it. The depth, the fire, the contradiction, the scars, the soul that never stopped beating, even when you felt invisible. Closing reflection. Transcendence is not about floating above the world. It's about entering it fully, with eyes wide open, heart exposed, and soul untamed. It's about living as a whole being in a society of fragments. It's about creating light without denying the dark. It's about walking through this world as someone who feels everything and still chooses to stay awake. Not for their comfort, but for your freedom. You are no longer here to perform. You are here to embody, to live, to lead, to remind others what it means to feel. Because when you stop fearing your depth, you become a force the world cannot ignore. You are not broken. You are awake. And now, you are unstoppable. To those who return week after week, the GrimFace Warriors walking through the fire with us, thank you. You are the reason this movement exists. You are proof that even in a world drowning in surface and silence, there are still those who feel deeply, stand firmly, and refuse to disappear. This space was built for you, for the black sheep, the misfits, the ones who carry scars like armor and turn their pain into power. And if you're new here, welcome to the edge. This isn't a channel. It's a resistance, a rebellion against numbness, a call to depth, to discipline, to authentic existence. So if something inside you stirred, If you felt seen, even for a moment, don't let that fade. Subscribe. Join the movement. Stand with us. Because the world doesn't need more noise. It needs warriors of truth. This is GrimFace, and we're just getting started.